back to Reading Road. So today, once again, I'm carrying on with my Freightliner depot. What I'm going to be focusing on today is some of the ground detailing, along with completing the ballast, and also perhaps doing a bit of track weathering as well if I've got enough time. So I'm going to get cracking straight on the video and not hang about, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So before I get into the video, I just want to say a big thank you actually to a couple of individuals for providing me a bunch of reference pictures of the depot in Ipswich, which is what this depot is inspired by. It's not a like-for-like representation, but I've taken some inspiration from it because it's a rather small depot, and you'll see from the pictures shortly. But the first guy I want to say a big thank you and give a shout out to is my good friend Mr. Paul Hughes. He's provided with a load of pictures from inside the depot itself because he's an ex-Freightliner employee, so having him as a friend is extremely beneficial to someone like me, and you'll see later on why some of the pictures wouldn't have been possible without Paul's help. So a big thank you to you, Paul, and I'll catch up with you soon. The second guy is to a chap called Sartorios, who provided me with plenty of pictures of the Ipswich depot from the platforms. So he's given me plenty of pictures from each side of the depot, so I can good views of all the detailing and things like that. Obviously, without these two individuals, I wouldn't have been able to have the time to go out and do it myself because of the current situation and other things as well. Like, I just don't have the time in general anyway. So a big thank you to those two guys, and I'm extremely appreciative of what you've done, and hopefully this depot will turn out a hell of a lot better than what it would do if I didn't have these two guys supporting me. So just a big thanks to you guys. So I'm just now going to show the photos that I've been provided, and you'll get an idea on what I'm going to achieve, or what I hope I'm going to achieve with this depot. So starting off with a nice establishing shot provided by Andy. You can see that when I said it was small, I certainly wasn't kidding. On the left-hand side of the picture, you've got the loco storage sidings, which is where that fuel wagon is. And then in terms of facilities, you've got the two refuelling points, which is where the two Class 66s in the centre of the shot are sitting. Then the fuel storage point for those refuelling points is on the right-hand side, with the fuel wagon storage siding to the left of that. And then behind the refuelling points is the inspection pit area, which is made out by the two overhead masts or pylons, whatever they're for. So when it comes to the ground cover, one thing I noticed is that the entire depot is ballasted. There's no break in ballast anywhere. The whole surface of the depot is ballasted, and then you've got points of things like little bits of overgrowth here and there, which is what I'm going to model as well. The ballast is also lighter as it gets further back into the depot. So closer to the station, it's somewhat darker and heavier weathered. And then at the back, it's more lighter and a bit more pristine. So that's another point taken. So now taking a look at some of the closer details in the depot. So you've got the overgrowth that is quite dense towards the back of the picture as the sidings go further back. And then the gravel paths as well next to the lines, so the drivers can move around safely. And then you've also got a bit of drainage as well on the right hand side of the picture in between the two tracks. More or less the same as the previous picture, but with some oil spillages in between the rails on the track closest in shot. More overgrowth at the back of the sidings, along with some piles of old sleepers here and there. And then you can see how the overgrowth is less dense towards the back. Then you've got your ground signals on the exits to the depot to join the main line. And then you can also see a crossing there as well towards the bottom of the photo. Some sleepers painted yellow every here and there. Small pictures of drainage and also ground frames as well for the points, along with your concrete walkways and your hard standing. Signage along with plenty of Freightliner branding. And finally the depot building itself, which I'll attempt to scratch build in the future. So you get an idea on what I'm going to achieve with this depot, or hope to achieve. So I'm going to follow the normal procedure with how I've done the rest of the layout and get all the ground detail done first. So I'm going to get all the point ground frames in, all the foot crossings in, and anything that goes besides the tracks basically. So I'm going to now get sorting those out. So I've started adding in some ground detail, and now I've added in some point ground frames. These were just made out of little odds and ends I had laying about and then just painted up. They look alright, they're not that brilliant I don't think, but once they've been weathered I hope they'll look a lot better once all the ballast surrounds it. Obviously you can get the wheels kit to do it, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Wasn't really prototypical for the area or from the pictures, so I just thought I'd make my own. And then coming up here, there's another ground frame there which I made a little bit different, obviously still following the pictures. And then I also made a manhole and a couple of drains just out of little scraps as well. I ran out of materials to make them sort of little things with, so I've just placed them all with scale wall scenery for some proper kit versions. So I'll crack on with the rest of the detailing once they get here. But there is still stuff I'm going to be getting on with, so I'm going to start adding the ballast into the entry of the depot. So I've just made a start on ballasting around this point, or at least the mechanism part of it. So what I'll do is I'll show you how I go around doing that on the freeway. So first off, you just want to hand paint all of the glue around the sleepers and around all the point mechanism. I tend to say go 5 or 6 sleepers in either direction, because then you can do the rest of the point with your usual pipette and spray method. So there you saw me applying my ballast, and what I do is I just fill up the lid for the Woodland Scenics ballast, and then you just tap it on like that. Makes things a lot easier that way, I think. And then just follow the normal procedure, so just don't get any on the insides of the rails, just tidy things up as you go, don't block the point mechanisms. All my points are wired up, so they will be working. If yours aren't working, the manual, then you don't really have to worry so much about doing it this method. You can just do it the whole thing with the PVA mix, and then just try and loosen it up as you go along. But if your points are wired and you tend to do them with switches, then I wouldn't personally go down that route. So what I'm going to do now is just finish the rest of the ballasting on the depot, just using the usual method, and I'll get back to you when I've done that. So I've just finished adding all the ballast to the side, most of the sidings. Haven't done there yet because there's still some ground detail I need to put in, but I don't want to go too far. So I'm just going to leave it all now to dry and then come back before I carry on. Okay, so it's the following day. I came in from last night and the glue's gone off for around 18 hours. I'm still going to leave the fine stuff to go off for another 24 hours or so because it isn't quite rock solid yet. But I'm just going to do a quick point test just to prove, I have done this already, but just to prove to you that they work. So I've tested all the point work and I did clean the track. I run a loco everywhere that I've ballasted. So I can happily say that everything works as it should, and I can now proceed and move on. The ballast has also gone off now as well completely, which is nice. All the ballast now is rock solid everywhere. So I can now proceed and move on. And what I want to do is start filling in some gaps with the gravel and ballast. And I'm also going to start adding in some further detailing as well. So I'm going to crack on doing that. So as you can see, I've done a bit more work. So I just done some ground covering with some ballast and gravel. So I mixed up a little pot of some Woodland Scenics ballast and gravel, gave it a bit of a shape to create a bit of a blend, and also just to conserve some materials because I'm really getting low on ballast now. But I've got some coming anyway. So I've done the large area in between there, and I've just left a gap there because I want to put another drainage system in there. And then I've done alongside that corner siding as well, so it's gone all the way around the outside. And then as you can also see, I finished off the gravel path alongside the fence and put in a foot crossing. The foot crossing is a scale model scenery kit. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And I also added a little patch of static grass there just to cover a bit of baseboarding, just to give it a bit more of a gap in between these two tracks. So I'm quite happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish applying the ground cover off camera and just give it all time to dry, because then I want to then get cracking on with the track weathering stage and also applying the bit of pigments and weathering to the area as well. So I made a start doing the track weathering, but normally I weather the track with my airbrush, which is what I've done the rest of my layout with. But my nozzle decided to split when I was painting up the rest of the track foot crossings you see there. So I've had to order some small nozzles and needles because they were my last ones. So yeah, that was quite disappointing. So I've had to adopt using the watered down paints applied with the pipette. And then my pipette decides to split, so I haven't had much luck this week working on the layout, and I did take a couple of days break because of it. And I've just come in today just to do a bit more work, which is what you saw just now. I still need to clean the track just to get all the paint off the tops of the rails. I'll do that pretty soon. But I am quite happy with how it's looking. More down here needs to be improved, I think. It needs to blend a lot better, but I'll probably do that with the airbrush once all my new stuff's arrived. I still need to add the pigment to the gravel path there, but and obviously still do all the detailing up the far end along with weathering when that's all done. So I've got plenty of stuff coming. I've got my scale model scenery bits coming, so I can get on with the detailing. I've got some Absolute Aspects ground signals coming, so I can install those when they get here. Then I've obviously got my airbrushing parts and some new pipettes coming as well, so it's just a matter of now waiting until they get here before I can really get on with the depot. But there is still plenty of stuff I can be getting on with outside of the depot, so it's not all doom and gloom. Whilst working on the depot and over the week, I've been working on this little practice piece for when I come around to doing the depot car park. It's made out of polyfiller and just painted up, and just using different techniques. As you can see, you've got a pothole there and a larger pothole in the end there, and that little bit in the middle is meant to be a concrete patch up, like a botched cancel patch up. So I've just been doing a bit of practicing before I can do the main big one on the layout, and I have to say I'm more or less confident and I'm pretty there now with it, so I'll be making a start doing the car park very soon while I wait for all the deliveries. So that's one thing I can be doing. I thought I'd try out one of the Hatton's spill kits as well on my diorama. It's a bit overkill with what I've done, but again, it was just what to practice on. I'm not too worried about how, if things come out bad on this or anything, it can always be tidied up in the future anyway. But yeah, that's something else I'll be adding to the depot as well once everything's all sorted. And then lastly, I've also got a bit of catenary I can be fitting as well, so there'll be a sort of a how-to on how I do that and how to modify up the Pico masts. So again, there is plenty of stuff I can be doing while I wait, so it certainly isn't all doom and gloom. So there we go. There's just a few things I can be getting on with in the meantime while I wait for stuff to arrive. Obviously, I'll still be having plenty of videos on the way. But yeah, this more or less brings an end to the video, and whilst it is a rather disappointing or a negative end, I just want to leave it on a positive note before I say goodbye. I just want to say a big thank you to all of the key workers keeping the whole country going while this crisis goes on. Whilst it seems that the whole world's come to a standstill, all these key workers are proving that the entire weight is on their shoulders, and they're the ones keeping the country going at all times. So if you're a key worker and you're watching this, just want to say a massive thank you to you, whether it be you're a paramedic or another NHS worker on the front line combating coronavirus day in, day out, whether you're a postman that's, you're keeping someone like me with my hobby going, or even if you're, a police officer or literally any key worker at all. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you, and I think I speak for the whole world that the whole weight of the whole situation is on your shoulders. And while most of us, it feels like the whole world's come to a standstill, you're the ones keeping the country going. So I'll take my hat off to you guys, and I think the whole world owes you a favour at the moment. But again, just a massive thank you to you guys. And on that note, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you in the next video. And hopefully I'll get a fair bit more progress done, and it will go a hell of a lot smoother than what it has done this whole week. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, happy modelling, and stay safe.